for being part of a plan to hurt people, being 200 years old, and even worse, she's Canadian. So
and everybody is appalled at she is Canadian.
Welcome to Cinema So Far, the podcast where good friends talk about great cinema. I'm your host, James, and today we are joined by our co-host, Paul.
We all know perfect is the enemy of good.
And we have Alex.
Hello, old chums.
Today we are talking about Fallout Season 2, Episode 7. The title of this episode is called The Handoff. And
the hand job.
Yeah, well, it's a different show, but the handoff is this one. And I think there's a few different ways we can break down this title here. What do you guys think? You got any ideas as far as like different handoffs in the episode?
Well, they were handing off the cold fusion. So that seems to make sense.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a lot of that was I was trying to think of other I'm sure there had to have been some other instances where that was applicable, but
the death claw got his hand cut off with
that's true.
The armor.
I guess, yeah, his fingers are cut off. Yeah, that's a good one. I think but yeah, most of the time I was just seeing like them like pass the diode around. Like that's what I was so focused on that because I'm just like, this is like for 200 years this thing is like exchanging so many different hands.
It's gone from hand to hand.
One small vial.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to, I'm sure that as we go along, there might be some other things that I find applicable. Like probably be something Betty handing off the
oh yeah,
the keepsake box. That potentially could be it.
Mm-hmm.
Things like
Chet
that.
was hands off when it came to his marriage.
Yeah.
He was trying to let go of Stephanie's hands. She was not letting go.
Good for Chet.
Yeah. Finally got some balls. I bet you Norm would have been proud to see that. He'd have been like, my man.
Yeah, Norm would have been proud, right?
He's got his own problems to deal with right now.
Yeah, we'll get into it because on this show, what we like to do is talk about the title of the episode, of course, but we also want to go into like an overview of what we thought about the episode. We're going to recap the episode scene by scene, and then we're also going to pull out some of our top moments, moments that we really loved about the episode, and the episode MVP. That's who we thought really crushed it as far as performance or character moments. So let's go ahead and open it up by starting and really just diving into the overall thoughts here. What did you guys think of the episode?
I was much happier than I believe last episode, where I was like, come on, let's get to some of this stuff. I think they were getting to some stuff. Of course, we're on episode 7, so I don't know really realistically how much they're going to able to answer in one episode from here, but I thought it was a really good episode. One of the best that in my opinion, kind of is starting to put everything together where you're seeing things come together. So
yeah, I think I agree with Paul. Definitely picking up on this one. There's a lot of stuff that I appreciated as far as like, we kind of already just mentioned with Chet. And then of course I like the Death Claw battles. That was pretty dope. We got to see a new set of armor. That was really awesome. So overall, a very fun episode. Probably one of my favorite ones of the season as well.
It's kind of funny. My first watch, I did not like this episode as much. And that's a first for me because every time I've seen other episodes, I've usually liked it right away. But the second time I watched it, it really grew on me because maybe I just really understood what was happening a little bit more. I don't know if everything clicked for me right away as in the first watch, but yeah, it was cool to get the backstory of Steph and really, understand what was happening from another country another country's perspective. Canada, which is usually like the butt of so many jokes, and we have like an interesting relationship with Canadians, but it was cool that they did that, and then just all of the heightening of the main mystery, what's going on with Vault-Tec, and there was a huge reveal in this episode, like huge reveal, and I barely like wrapped my head around it the second time. No pun intended, but
well, and
yeah.
everyone, it seemed like everyone was in this episode. So, normally it's been 3 or 4 different groups or whatever. But in this episode, it felt like all the main characters played at least some part in it. And again, I think that's leading to bringing it all together for episode 8 to see what happens. If they don't answer much in episode 8 and say, oh, we're going to do it next season, I'm going to be very disappointed. But I feel like this part, I feel like this made a long stride there. I would be happy if they said the next episode was going to be longer, but I don't know what that is. But, I want to get into answering some questions and then let's keep asking some more,
Well, it makes me wonder, because last season they did kind of had the same vibe, and you get to the last episode thinking like, oh, I don't really know how much they're going to do in one episode, and they were still able to pull it off for the most part. So hopefully we get that same kind of amount of attention.
I have total faith in the writing, in the writers of the show. They've really proven themselves so far, I think.
But I also wouldn't mind just for the finale, not every episode, but I wouldn't mind like an hour and a half, finale or something like that.
It's always cool when like the opening of a season is a little bit longer and the closing's a little bit longer. Like you guys are saying, you're able to pack more in and really set up things for the next season, which we know there's going to be a next season. And we all hate whenever writers are trying to like rush things along maybe too fast. They don't
drag them out.
Or drag them out. Yeah, the pacing has to be just right for it to really feel good, and to make us excited to wait like another 2 years for the next season.
That's something that just kind of really does aggravate me about modern television in general. It's really hard for me to devote my time to all the shows that are coming out when it's such a it's such a time investment, and 2, you do have to wait 2, 3, 4 years between seasons. Like for instance, with Stranger Things, like I'm not even going to watch the last season. It's been so long. I'm just like, I'm not invested in it emotionally or spiritually or anything. So I'm getting kind of weary. So, it's kind of weary about when y'all were talking about the new Game of Thrones show spinoff, but I think you guys said it was like half an hour an episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
about
I
that.
might be a little more, inclined to watch something like that. But I kind of miss just like old network television, to be honest with you. Like,
there's a comfort to it for sure.
Yeah. Like, and just, like a comfort. And it's like, you knew what to expect. If you had good writers, the show would stay on. Like, obviously it's comedy, but like something like Seinfeld, that you can just watch over and over and again. It's like each episode's like 25 minutes. But
don't get all 3 of us talking about Seinfeld now.
Well, I was going to say that's what I turn on when I get into bed, because I don't have to think about anything, and I can usually fall asleep pretty quick, even though I'll be laughing half the time. So
yeah,
well, yeah, that's serialized television. It used to be cool, like, and we don't need to stay on this too much longer, but with network television, it used to be cool because you would have like your daily, like, it'd be like Gilmore Girls or Friends, or and it would be like a new episode each week or every other day or something like that, right? And then you would have like serialized television, but it'd be like really good. And then now it's just kind of like everything's serialized, and I feel like for as much money as like the Disney and Netflix or all these people are putting into these television shows, like, and I can only think of one that I've enjoyed recently, and it has been Fallout, right? Like, that is kind of, that's the point I'm making.
I just feel that in what you're talking about as serial television versus what's going on now, like you used to have many episodes. Like the show Lost would do 26 episodes in a season, so
Yes.
it was something every
Exactly.
week that you kept progressing on. When you're limited to 8 episodes, I think the timing starts to get a little iffy if you wait too long to put out more episodes. So,
well, I think on the other side of that, just, because I've had this observation too with that whole change of how many episodes are usually in a season now. I think in the past, they had to really put a lot of work into getting to that number of episodes. It's not easy to write for all 20, 30, whatever episodes you're going to do in a season. And I think that's where you would get a lot of filler. You'd get a lot of filler episodes because they just had to fill that spot. Whereas now it feels like writers are able to really pace things out the way they think it should be without packing it, without having a lot of fat to trim,
Yeah.
So there's good and bad, I think, but you bring up Lost. I mean, I felt like this episode kind of reminded me of Lost with so many flashbacks going on for multiple characters. But yeah, it just gave me those Lost vibes again.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So let's get into the recap. So the episode opens on a younger Stephanie and who we learn, someone else who we learn is her mother, running through rural Canada until they're confronted by an armored up suit wearing bigot. We learn that was actually a flashback as Steph gets ready for the day. She remembers her mother, who happens to be the alien from Species, by the way, and her mother is telling her that she needs to hurt people to survive. So this was not a scene I was expecting. I was not expecting to get a flashback as far as how Stephanie came to be inside the vault, but it was pretty fascinating. I didn't like it at first. It felt a little out of place, but when I kind of sat with the context of it, it was like, wait a minute, they're actually showing something I haven't really thought of before. And in a country you don't normally think about Canada versus America. Like the closest we got to like that was like the tariffs thing a little while ago.
Did you read the news today?
No, I didn't read the news today. Okay, actually,
well, have fun.
Topical. Okay, well,
what happened?
Yeah, what happened today?
Give us the long short of it.
Basically, our dear president, Canada is trying to do some things that Europe is doing to America right now because there's a lot of opposition of what's going on. And so, as we see in many online postings, we had a major political figure in our life basically trash Canada is the easiest way to put it at this point. So,
man, and they're so nice too. That's what's lame.
That's Canada. A talk for another day.
Yeah. What about Steph and her mom as they are trying to get away?
So I did have a question about that because you're talking about. So I was confused because we know that Stephanie had a Canadian ID, right? Because that was discovered by Chet previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when she's escaping. Is she escaping into Canada or from Canada?
From Canada into America.
Then why was there a United States Marine trying to put her back in an internment camp? Because my belief was that she was a Canadian that was interned in America and then she was returning back to Canada. But then that doesn't make sense because she was at the Lucky 38 later. So that's where I kind of confused because it was definitely a U.S. Marine because it said USMC on his.
I don't think we have a clear picture on what the status between the U.S. and Canada is at this point.
But I do think it was like border patrol.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense.
Like
yeah.
I think that's what it was. Is
That
they
makes
were
sense. That's why I
guarding the
say
border.
Yeah, but
basically, you
border
hosers
patrol
return.
isn't putting people into internment camps.
ICE is.
No, but I mean,
Well,
it's like
maybe.
deportation. You know, keeping them in their country.
Supposedly.
You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's well.
Well, I mean, you know what an internment camp is, right? You're rounding up people, putting them in a all together in an area so you can monitor them, and they really don't have any rights. I mean, we did that to the Germans and Japanese during World War II.
The Germans did that to the Poles and the Jews.
You know, this is something that's going on at this time, and maybe it has to do with the Canadian part of it. But they weren't clear on what they were trying to capture her for. It was to go back to an internment camp.
Well, and that's kind of what confused me, because if it seems like if we're thinking she's coming from Canada and getting into the United States, then that means Canada put her in an internment camp.
Wait, sorry. How do we know she was in an internment camp? Maybe I missed that part.
Because they said you guys need to return to the internment camp.
Oh.
you hosers. And he said hoser, right? So if he said hoser, he's got USC, he's calling them hosers, which can be a slang for Canadians. And, you know, like you would call Russians Ruskies, right?
Well, I don't, but you do.
I said you could call Russians Ruskies.
Okay.
Russians Ruskies. Anyway, so yeah, the fact that, you know, saying you hosers go back to your internment camp, like, maybe, unless there's, I mean, I guess you could be calling the whole country an internment camp for some reason. I don't know. But it was just kind of confusing to me, that because as we're going to find out here soon, that her mother tells them, don't see them as humans, see them as Americans. So obviously she hates Americans. She has a disdain for Americans.
And I think obviously she's going to America to deal with the Americans, you know.
Okay,
and
so I took that differently. And I thought she said, don't think of them as stupid human beings. Think of them as Americans.
No,
unless I missed.
No, it's don't think of them as human beings.
Okay.
Like it's, you know, it's turning, it's that age old trick of like turning that group into the other, you know, they're subhuman. They're not on your level.
That changes the complete. Changes the complete meaning of what I took it as versus what you're saying now. So
yeah. Well, how about the part where her mother is being played by, I cannot remember this actress name, but she was from the movie Species. Did you guys ever watch that movie?
No.
It's been a while.
Okay.
I saw it back in like the 90s, early 2000s, but yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. That was her. But
I didn't even notice it until you said it. Honestly, because like, when I was younger, that might have stuck with me, because I feel like I thought that woman was attractive when I was a kid.
Of course.
But I haven't seen her in so long that I can't remember. I always get her and the chick from Guillermo del Toro's Mimic mixed up.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
They both came out the same side.
Yeah, she's older now, but still, you know, see how good you look after you escape from an internment camp.
Oh, I'm not saying she's ugly. I'm just saying I haven't seen her in over a decade to be able to, you know, remember her face.
Yeah.
But I think the main point of that section or this scene was basically her mother telling her, if you hurt people, God won't judge you. And so you kind of see that now down the road as she's in the vault. And this is kind of her attitude of, you know, I got to do what I got to do to protect myself. And if I have to hurt people in the process, well, that's just what's going to happen. So
she's ruthless, and it makes perfect sense at this point, right? Okay.
And even more so than that, she said, you know, to that point where you're bringing up the God situation, she said, I raised you Catholic, but we could forget all that, or something like that. God's not going to judge you for hurting other people. But yeah, to that point, one thing that the thing that I got from it, because I think, like you said, when you first watch it, it kind of seems out of place. And it did to me for a second, until I realized and remembered No, Lucy was the one that like was kicking ass in the first episode and like got like of the first season and got stabbed in the face and just took the fork out and started so
Stephanie,
she
you mean?
Oh, Steph. Yeah.
What'd I say?
You
Lucy?
said Lucy.
Oh, I meant Stephanie. Stephanie, yeah, from episode 1 was the one kicking ass and got stabbed in the eye, and was still killing. So like this kind of explains how she got so ruthless. But like what kind of fucked me up was like she straight up just like slits that dude's throat for some pork and beans.
And a bean.
Like, that's what you're gonna kill it for a pork and bean. He probably would have gave it to you if you asked for it. You know what I mean?
Right?
Just like straight up, just like Michael Myers just slit her throat, like slit his throat rather. Anyway, I thought that was ridiculous, and then of course she kills the guard.
Yeah, she was on a killing spree for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back at Vault Tech HQ, we see Lucy and Hank discuss if this is the right way to save the world, even if it's wrong. Everyone is there working on the devices, working in harmony. They got their office, outfits on, and they're just going at it. Lucy seemed like she was going along with it at first. Then we are treated to Lucy learning how to drive, taught by Hank, as they go in this golf cart, as they are going to, basically continue with this plan.
And this was interesting because it appeared that Lucy had come to a realization that her father was doing what was best, and related to, they said, hey, the Legion's still out there. They're going to hurt a lot of people. And with what you've created, Hank, with your mind control or Vault-Tec, whatever, you could stop them. And, Hank says, yes, we can stop them. So I thought that was, a pretty interesting portrayal of what was going on. And so it was interesting.
They kind of do this a few times in the episode where they make you think Lucy's going to go one way, but she goes another. So in this moment, I wasn't sure what she was going to do, but she basically tries to go and destroy the whole operation. As she's about to do that, she recognizes the Legionary behind her, mopping the floor, and you can kind of see the gears turning in her head. Like she's starting to have doubts about what the right thing to do is, because here this person was choking her, just a little while ago, wanted to kill her, and now he looks so docile and happy and just, a contributor to society. So now she's just wondering, like, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? Is this the right thing to do? I don't know.
Yeah, you could definitely see her struggling with that back and forth. She has you could see her conscience working in real time, and sometimes it doesn't always look so cut and dry. You kind of have to weigh out your options. And just like you said with, the Legionary, kind of thinking like, well, yeah, like we could do this and control these criminals, but at the end of the day, like, is that right? Is that a good thing to do if you're taking everybody's free will away? Is that truly like freedom? Is that truly like a good society? But she said, like, I think a couple different times, she's like, yeah, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to go kill the mainframe. But what I thought was really funny was the kind of the dialogue between her and her dad felt kind of weird to me. Like how she's like, I need to stop this. Like, how do I stop this?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you can't stop it. It's already going. Like, well, how do I, you stop, or how you can't change these people back or whatever. And she's like, well, how do I stop it? And he's like, well, you got to go to destroy the mainframe. She's like, well, I'm going to go to destroy the mainframe. And he's like, it's kind of a trek. Let's drive. And like, and as they're doing that, yeah, the driving sequence to me was kind of interesting because it was kind of, in a sense, like, despite all that's going on, him trying to have some sort of, fatherly connection to his daughter, teaching her how to drive.
Well, and also the simplicity of driving a golf cart, and here she is 20, I assume she's in her younger 20s or so. Like, why can't I drive with 2 feet? I always love that one. So,
which I think is a question that I relate to. I don't know if you guys do too, but I feel like a lot of people are like, why don't we drive with 2 feet? And then until you start driving and you realize, it's better to drive with one.
Well, I was going to ask, ask the two dads on here, Alex, who you haven't taught your daughter to drive yet, but Paul, you probably have, right? You've probably taught both your daughters to drive. Was this pretty accurate?
yep. First thing you tell them is you do not drive with 2 feet, and they don't understand why. And then you tell them you don't want pushing one foot instead of the other. And so, yeah, it was absolutely something that I went through with both daughters.
I found out the hard way. I thought I could drive, and I took my stepdad's. He had a white Chrysler Sebring convertible, and I took it around the block a few times. And I was driving. I was like, yeah, I got this. But I was driving double footed, right? And then I went to park it, and I got nervous, and I confused my feet, so I pushed on the gas instead of the brake, and then I ran into a pillar of the apartment and screwed up our next door neighbor's door. Like, it just kind of broke in, and then So, listen to your dads. Anybody, if you got some kids listening, listen to your dads, and they tell you not to drive double footed.
I learned to drive on a stick shift, so I had to drive dual footed. But
wow,
that was some fun times.
With the clutch, though, right?
Yeah, but being on a hill and you have your foot on the clutch and your foot on the brake, and then you got to switch them both at the same time, but you got to pull your foot off the clutch slowly. And as a 16-year-old kid, that's a lot. But luckily, I started driving when I was 14, unbeknownst to my parents. So it was no problem.
Looks like you take it like a pro.
Yeah, taking out the car for joyrides.
That's kind of what I did too. I drove without my license I didn't get my license until I was like 22, I think. I was driving without my license for a while.
Dang.
I should not have.
I was 14 pushing the car down the driveway so it didn't make any noise, then pushing it down the street, then you started it up. You go
Going
out,
to some hardcore shows.
You have a great old time. You return 5:30 a.m. I have the paper route, which is my cover. So I just go deliver my papers. I come in the house at 6:30. My parents are getting ready to go to work, and I'm exhausted from being up all night, and I go to sleep.
They listen to this podcast, so now you're in trouble.
Nah,
I think
they're not that sharp anymore, so I'm not too worried about it.
I heard somewhere recently that they're teaching people to drive double footed now.
I hope,
and I hope that's a myth, but yeah. So just to wrap that the whole topic up,
pretty soon the cars are just going to drive no footed. So
yeah,
no one's going to have to worry about that. But it did seem like Hank really was wanting that sense of normalcy with his daughter, and it was happening for a while, but we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, I even said, one more thing, and that was when she said that line, or he said, "I wish you had a normal life," and then she goes, "We did, but you ruined it."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And so I have, in some of my notes about, how much does Hank remember about Lucy's upbringing and all that stuff?
Well, I want to ask you guys about that later, too. When we come to one of these later scenes, I want to bring up Hank and, his relationship with his kids, because I felt like the show was doing some heavy implications there. Maybe you guys thought the same thing. Maybe you thought something completely different, but we'll get there. So now we go back to the wasteland where Thaddeus is desperate for some good old-fashioned ghoul bonding. And the ghoul explains that their main objective is to go and save Lucy and go into that vault. But he does it while also pulling a gun on Maximus. The ghoul sees that he has the diode, then he agrees that Lucy will know what to do with it. So, yeah.
Did he agree? I thought it was just more of a knowing smirk, because he didn't say, because
yeah, I should have done the quotes with agree. Yeah. I felt like he agreed in as few words as possible.
Yeah, because the way I took it, it was like, first off, you had Thaddeus, and he's just like, yeah, just a couple of ghouls, right? And then And then he turns around and he says something to Maximus like, "What are you doing with that? Or how'd you get that? Or why do you have that?" And then he says, "I'm going to give it to Lucy because Lucy's a good person. She'll know what to do with it." And then I think that's when I don't know what he implied with the smirk, but it just kind of seemed like he was like, "All right, whatever," you know.
I felt like he was like, "Oh, I got it, and I agree." So
maybe could be. I think maybe deep, which is it's hard to say with him because he just got impaled.
Or maybe Alex, do you think it's a little more cynical than that, where he's thinking like, okay, I can use this to actually get what I want. I'm going to go along to get along.
Potentially, from what we saw in the episode before last, that could be the case. I don't necessarily think that is, though, because I think that with the guilt that we saw the ghoul have when he was even considering having to turn Lucy in, I think that maybe he might be a little pissed off, but I think more so, I think he was scoffing at the puppy love. You know, He's like, "I'm going to bring this to Lucy. He's a good girl," and he's like, you know what I mean, just kind of like almost like that's cute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No way. That's the kind of way I took it.
Maybe it was all of that. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of everything.
It could be. You never know with him, but that's the thing is like that's what the ghoul does. He kind of plays his cards close to his chest. You know, like he emotes more than he speaks. And when he does speak, it's because he's got something good to say. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
he's a man of few words.
I have in my notes that the ghoul, is someone who understands power, but understands that sometimes must pass through immoral hands to reach moral outcomes.
Yep. I mean, that's the thesis of the show, you know? And it's crazy how many,
that, though.
Yeah, but it's crazy how many of those moral dilemmas are sprinkled throughout the show in just these 2 seasons. There's so many. You know, is it okay to slice someone's throat for some pork and beans if you're that hungry and you need revenge? You know,
I'd say ask first, you know.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Got to be polite, right? If you're Canadian, you got a reputation.
Not very Canadian of her.
Mm-hmm. But there's so many of these, right? And I don't know. I think it's cool the way the writers don't make it too one-sided. You know, you can see both sides in almost all of these. So that's great. All right. We flash back to Las Vegas and see the maid who came to clean up the mess Cooper and Barb made in the hotel room, Hank. We see that the maid is actually Steph. And she really wants to get in those vaults and seems to plot exactly how she will do it as she carts Hank away. So this was cool.
Hank passed out.
Hank was passed out. They call a maid up here to get rid of him. It happens to be Steph. And now it's coming together as far as like how she got into these vaults.
And she's asking, how do I get into this? What do I have to do? You know, Cooper kind of indicates like, hey, maybe that's not the best place to go or do whatever. And she's just disregarding what he's saying and saying, you know, how do I get a job at Vaultec? And, meanwhile, you have Barb listening in the other room. So,
I mean, Stephanie is so sharp, right? Like she's not falling for the lines that Cooper's feeding her. She really feels this is going to happen and she needs to do whatever she can to protect herself.
Self-preservation is Stephanie's motivation.
Yeah. Or is it revenge? I mean, she doesn't have a good relationship with Americans. She infiltrates the vaults, and I feel like she has a huge grudge still.
Yeah, maybe.
To me, that would be a very interesting plot twist, but I'm interested to see how that Canadian aspect kind of comes more into play.
What I want to know, or what I'm interested to find out, is what does that have to do with what is in Hank's box?
Yeah. What do you guys think
What's
is
in the
in there?
box?
Yeah, exactly. What's in there? Like, what could it possibly be?
It's got to be something incriminating, you know? Like I was joking the other day. I think I said a sex tape. And I mean, I know that I was joking, but it could be, you know, or it could be, you know, some sort of like incriminating evidence that she has on Hank.
Well, let me ask you this. How, like, okay, they're probably going to show it next episode, but what do you guys think happened there? How did what was her relationship with Hank? He wakes up and then what? You know, like, how does she then end up as a prominent member? Maybe not prominent, but she's in the right vaults, you know, when everything goes down. How do you think it happened?
She's willing to
Were they
do
like hooking
whatever.
up?
She's willing to do whatever it takes to survive, and I think Barb recognizes that and says maybe that's management material and moves her that direction.
That's potential. I think that's one thing. Also, I think, you know, it could be a honeypot situation. Maybe she is giving up the goods. You know?
You know, I've just thought of something. Because maybe she got hired by Hank and moved right up, like you're saying, Paul, because remember later, her and Barb, when they have it out, Betty, when her and Betty are talking later, Betty says, I never liked you, or we were always scared of you. So
yeah,
she must have like started working there.
Oh yeah, she definitely had to go through the junior executive system somehow.
Yeah,
you know, because she is 200 years old. She was from Vault 31.
She got moved on up.
I feel like that much is apparent because Hank knew her and seemed, at least in the very beginning, to trust her somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's whatever's in that box. I think is going to be, it's either incriminating or it's very important to the, you know, maybe what the junior executives are trying to do now, right? You know, when you hear about Rodney or whatever his name is, Ronnie, I think,
Mm-hmm.
when he was talking about, you know, being the end or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? In Vault 30, when he's talking about like, you know, this is what we do at the end plan or the end game or something like that.
Yeah. That, like, the overall plan that they have.
Yeah. So maybe, I'm sure it has something to do with that, or I'm assuming it has something to do with that. Maybe it's a kill switch. Maybe it's another nuke that's armed, you know, like a key to a nuke or something. Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure, but I am eager to find out what it is.
Well, if anyone watching this wants to, you know, get some internet points and throw it out in the comments, let us know what you think is going to happen there.
I thought it was an interesting interaction between her and Cooper. Cooper still is saying, look, if we all do the right thing, these vaults won't be necessary. And she just disregards everything he says and says, how do I get a job at this company so I can get in a vault? So she, again, is just displaying she's into her own thing, and, you know, other people who are trying to maybe be more peaceful or not have a requirement to get into these settlements. You know, she doesn't really care about that. I think she thinks it's inevitable, and she wants to do whatever she has to get into one of those.
Well, and I think that what she said to Cooper was very interesting, and I actually really liked it. Was Cooper said,
if you do the right thing, the vaults won't be necessary.
Yeah, he said, you know, like, the vaults aren't all they're cracked up to be, and you know, let's just hope that everybody does the right thing and the vaults aren't necessary. And she says something to the effect of, it would be more likely for her to get into a vault than to do the right thing, basically.
She's a realist. Okay, so after that, in a nearby bar, Cooper meets with the Congresswoman.
The Wrangler.
Yeah, after bailing her out of jail, you know, from that whole last skirmish that happened. They both seem to know what Vault-Tec is up to and agree to get the diode to the president to solve the problem once and for all. So this is where they basically talk about it. In the later scenes, we're going to see it happen. I love this scene. I love how it kind of keeps building the mystery a little bit. Like, you keep thinking, how is this Congresswoman involved with all of this? She seems like such a minor player. How does this all fit together? And they're just kind of walking you step by step through that process. and I don't know. It's just so cool. I love the writing of this type of show where it's just revealing this mystery step by step in these different reveals.
Well, and Cooper points out to her that basically, look, you have good intentions. However, you need to sell it more effectively. So, he's kind of pointing out, yes, I recognize the things you're trying to do. However, the way you're going about this is not going to sell the people who you need to change their minds on.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I like that part. But what kind of got me more was anybody else just kind of like, thinking, isn't it very convenient that the president just happens to be in town? Like he just happened to arrive in a cab and then she knows that. And why is he in town during the time that Vault-Tec is in town, when they're trying to do this deal with Cooper,
And why would she be the person that is keeping tabs on all this? Yeah. It has a lot of it has more of a sinister answer later, but I was thinking those questions too.
Well, when we still don't even know with what we get later, exactly what's going on, but it did definitely seem like Cooper, come on, man. Like this is line up a little too much, and I think maybe Cooper's just a little too optimistic at that point in time.
Yeah, okay, but she also says, what we need to do is give this to the public. He asks her, what would you do with it? And she says, I would give it to the public. And so they think they're going to do that by giving it to the president. And I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Well,
maybe.
Okay, just to skip ahead a little bit, because I feel like I got to ask this now. Otherwise, I might forget to ask. But what do you guys think happened with that? Because, Alex, you said that they don't really spell it out. I feel like they kind of do. And maybe I'm going way off the reservation here as far as what happened, but let me just,
have we seen the back of her neck?
I wasn't even going to say that, but let me at least say what I think happened.
Okay.
And then you guys tell me if you thought the same thing or if you thought something else.
Okay.
So I just thought that what it was is she was told, hey, find this out, find the diode, get it to the president. The president will take care of it. He's a good guy. She facilitates that whole thing, not realizing that the president sells her out basically to Vault-Tec, and the handoff to that president isn't what Cooper thought. He thought he was handing it to someone with power, and he wasn't. That's how it ends up.
Power and integrity.
Right. Neither of which are there. And so that's how her head ends up in the jar powering the mainframe, is because she thought she had the best of intentions here, not realizing that she was going to get double crossed.
Or maybe Cooper didn't realize the handoff was actually her.
Wait, like she intended to be the head in the jar?
No, like, the situation got her to a point where she compromised herself, and he unknowingly was handing her over to people that were going to do her harm. Mm. But no, I was saying, and I think the other thing I just mentioned too, theoretically here, is like maybe she has one of those control devices in the back of her neck, and maybe she's.
I'm thinking she's just more of a idealist, and says, hey, if I can do this and give it to the right people, it's going to be used for the right ways. And then, whatever happens after that point, we're going to find out.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to show all of that, in the next episode.
They have to. These are the questions we need to know. I need to put the details together to say, how do you end up from this to that, etc. She is, has a positive moral compass and is trying to do the right thing for society. So I don't see her kind of being a backstabber or whatever, but I see her as being a pawn.
That's what I'm saying. She was backstabbed. She went into it thinking that she was fixing everything and the people were going to have that cold fusion power, but she was double crossed by the president. I think.
I think it's too early to know.
Okay. Well, I would, if we're just going to make an assumption here, I think that's probably valid because, especially if they're drawing parallels to, modern corporatism, right? Like there is no secret that the corporations have their hands deep in the government's pockets, right? So
they have them up their booty holes like puppets.
Yeah, we work in what do you call it? Technocracy, whatever.
And this was the way to get the power back into the government.
Technocracy, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, get back to we'll see though. But yeah, I'm 99.9% sure though. Whatever it is, the president's not on the level.
I mean, when you get that actor, I'd be more willing. When you get that actor to play the president, it's almost a guarantee, right?
That guy's always a bad guy. Well, he wasn't a bad guy in John Wick, but anyway,
every other movie, 99% of his movies, he's the villain,
like the mortuary's assistant and stuff. He
was in Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Up on, he was the guard.
Oh yeah, he was. What a dickhead.
But okay, so this leads me to other questions I have so we'll get there though. So back in the wasteland, Thaddeus, the ghoul, and Maximus find an armory full of weapons. While they look, we learn why the ghoul is helping them. He also asks for a trade, the diode for the NCR armored suit.
Also, a little bit of game lore here. We the ghoul came across a Gauss rifle or a Gauss gun. That was that little thing he found, which I was like, oh, that's cool. I hadn't seen that one yet.
Okay.
But what I was really intrigued by, though, was the NCR power armor, though. I thought that was so dope.
It looks sick compared to the other one.
Yeah. It's like, and you see different power armors throughout the games, but, all you've seen so far is like the T series T45. And I think that might be a play off of the, a customized version of the T armors.
This was the coolest one, though. I mean,
especially with all the blades on the arms and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, this is it's a Mad Max dope ass shit here.
Yeah, primo armor.
But I like in the dialogue he said, I thought it was very important that's when, to quote Paul quoting the show, Paul, I believe that's when they said, in order for it has to exchange hands. What was that quote where it's like, in order for it to reach the good person, you have to give it to the bad person?
Yeah, so I'm fine.
And then, so basically he said that.
So basically, Maximus insists that the bile belongs to Lucy, and the ghoul argues that to give power to the good person, it must first pass through the bad ones.
The hands of the bad person. That's right. And then I feel like that hits Maximus to an extent. But I think he really got sold on the power armor. Usually he saw that, he's like, all right, here, take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that the next thing he said, there's only one person I knew who stayed on top in Vegas, and we're gonna have to do what he did and rig the system. Wish I would have wrote it down. All I wrote down was quote, rig the game. But I thought that was cool because he's obviously talking about Howard, right? Mm-hmm. Robert House.
And it was funny that Thaddeus is looking for a scope after his missing shooting and missing everyone. He said,
I'd be so much better with the scope. If anybody can find a scope.
I didn't even catch that. That's really funny.
Which is literally a callback to I think it was episode 7. It was episode 7 of season 1, I believe.
Yeah, that's tight. It's tight writing. Okay, so then we see Norm. He wakes up. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something else?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just meant to say that the last thing that Maximus said to him when looking at the armor was, you always end up back where you started.
Yeah.
Which I
What
feel like
what did
that's
he mean by
probably
that?
I feel like there's something important about that. The only thing that I really gathered was because he's getting back in the suit. They're going back to find Lucy again, and I think that's kind of pretty much what was the finale of the last season.
And
too,
maybe
right?
he sees the ghoul as Cooper instead of the ghoul at this point, or started
that
to.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because last time they met, they were fighting. This time they're fighting on the same side. Okay. So then we cut to Norm, who wakes up as the rest of Bud's buds try to figure out what to do with him. Ultimately, they decide to knock him out again.
And they have a full discussion on how impersonating management is punishable by death.
Yeah. They were kind of unclear as far as what the actual punishment was, but the guy was open to it. If anyone would have suggested anything, they probably would have done it.
Well, and I think that we could probably cover all of the Norm stuff here because it was 2 short scenes. And I don't think they dissect too much of anything else. But yeah, after that, he gets knocked out again, and then shortly after, we see Claudia come up and untie his hands and say, "Let's get out of here." And then for some reason he decides, yeah, let me do this thing real quick. And he calls out on the radio, "Hey, Lucy, if you're out there, I need some help." And then also, "Dad, what the fuck did you do?" Which I'm just like, why are you doing that, Norm? And then immediately you see the rest of the guys in the back, right? We're just talking about killing him. I'm just like, dude, you should have just took Claudia's hand and got out of there, bro.
Yeah. There's always these scenes in movies and shows where it's 2 people that are just, passing and missing each other, or a message that misses the other person. And
2 ships passing in the night is what they call that.
Yeah, exactly. And so we saw that as, Norm is finally able to get through to Lucy and Hank, but they're off doing something else, driving the go-kart or they're close, but not close enough to hear.
Mm-hmm. But also, I mean, which is cool. That in and of itself is cool, the 2 ships passing kind of thing. But I just thought it was so stupid that, he had this chance to escape. He's already been knocked out twice. They're talking about killing him. And he's like, "I'm going to blast this out to everybody."
Everybody who nobody knows if anybody's out there.
I mean, I think he's being selfless in this moment, right? He's trying to get a message out. Maybe he can find them. Maybe he can help them. But yeah, you're right. It might not be the smartest move.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Bro, you just
you just got choked out and woke
twice.
Up. Yeah.
So
in Vault 32, Chet asks about their wedding happening the next day and why they're doing it. He also finds Woody's glasses in the garbage disposal as he's talking to Steph.
And she is basically just dismissive of him. But, she says, "Leave me alone. I'm working. Don't ask me any questions about this." But Chet, he's putting the pieces of the puzzle together at this point. He gets the glasses. He thinks or knows they're Woody's. And, he has a reaction to where he crushes them up even more and then shoves them back down in the disposal.
So what do you guys think really happened to Woody? Any guesses?
He's in Vault 31, just like Stephanie said. But
what? Wait, what do you mean? How? Because Vault 31's empty.
That's what Stephanie said. Well, I don't know if she knows 31's empty, but yeah, I don't know. Stephanie is, hey, does this go back to, hey, you can kill someone if it's, something that you need to do that's going to benefit you ultimately. So maybe it goes back to that God's not going to punish you for doing what you have to do.
The stakes are a lot higher than for some pork and beans.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point she's even thinking about God. Really, I think it's at this point, she's kind of, God is
self-preservation
herself.
only.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, because she doesn't really speak of anything religious. That's not necessarily a characteristic of hers. So I thought that was kind of funny that her mom's like, "I raised you Catholic, but we're gonna forget about that, and you got to do whatever."
Okay,
Doesn't
but
seem to her that God applies at all.
how many religions, and not to break this off into another discussion, but how many people say they follow Jesus, follow Christ, follow Muslim, all that stuff, but yet they make their own rules because they fit. Well, I don't think swearing is that bad, so I can swear or whatever. So they kind of make their own rules anyways.
No, of course it happens all the time, but I think the difference is where there's a hypocritical aspect of that is usually people saying that or Bible thumping, and then they turn around and they get caught with underage children, or they get caught with drugs or whatever it is, right? Like, or beating their wife. But I think I'm just saying I don't see that as a characteristic of hers, because she never even really had mentioned God, and I feel like the vaults are sort of atheistic anyway. There's not really a presence of a higher power there. So that's why, to me, I find it was almost unnecessary, like a bit unnecessary for them to bring up the God's not gonna judge you if you kill people thing, if ultimately that's not a part of her characteristic anyway. Other than maybe it was just a verbal device to kind of explain, hey, you do you, girl. And that's the best way that her mother could rationalize it at the time, maybe, because her mother obviously seemed like she was Catholic, but she's like, none of that matters anymore, because this is, the end of the world.
I don't know that it necessarily had anything to do with religion, other than she has realized that in order to take care of her, she has to take care of her and not worry about anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm saying is I think that she has become her own God in that sense. Like, like God is arbitrary in that point.
She's become Chet's God.
Definitely.
So,
and apparently Woody's God too.
Yeah. But, so in Vault 33, where showers and flushing the toilet are now outlawed, Betty pulls out Hank's keepsake chest to trade it. Steph doesn't agree to honor the deal at first. Well, she actually agrees to honor the water deal. But whatever happens after that is bigger than both of them.
And that was another interesting viewpoint, because again, I think you see Betty saying, look, I'm trying to work with you. You give us the water like you said you were. I'm giving you this like we said. We're going to kind of keep working together. And I think Stephanie's attitude is, look, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. We don't know what's gonna happen down the line. And Betty tells her, like, you're up to something. I want no part of it. I want these people to live in peace. And Stephanie's just like, hey, we made a deal for water. Anything else is off the table right now. So
yeah, because Betty's thinking like, oh, she's Stephanie's the mean girl from The Office. She doesn't have any idea about this whole like kill Americans revenge plot going on that Stephanie has in her past. So yeah, I think she's starting to wake up to how like the true nature of Stephanie.
Stephanie's like, yeah, I killed a man over some Franken beans. Like, I have no problem slaughtering your ass over the vault. Yeah, I agree though. It definitely gives a more of a ominous kind of. I'm kind of scared of Stephanie myself. I would not want to be locked in a vault with her.
Yeah, she's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So our producer asks, do you think they know they can divert water from Vault 31 yet?
Can they, though? Why did Vault 31 need water? Everybody's in cryogenic chambers.
Yeah, and whenever they were locked in Vault 31, I guess that wasn't the full vault, right? That was just a part of it where they were locked out without food and water. So,
from what I understand, I think Vault 31 was just a holding area for the junior executives. I don't think there was anybody actually living in there as a full vault.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
But I mean, just because people were cryogenically frozen doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't need water. I mean, kind of getting into some, I really don't know how the vault system works, but it could be, like hydroelectric. It could be, there should be cooling systems for the computers that need water and all kinds of stuff like that. I would assume they need water for something, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Back in Las Vegas, the Ghoul and Maximus decide to go inside the HQ, and then Thaddeus' arms fall off. His arm falls off. Meanwhile, in the Vault-Tec HQ, Lucy discovers that people wearing the mind-altering devices no longer have their memories. She handcuffs Hank to the oven and goes to destroy the mainframe. This is also at the point where Norm wakes up and tries to communicate with Lucy and Hank. We already kind of covered that. But yeah, them walking into Vegas, where everyone is recognizing the NCR.
They're seeing hope.
The armor. Yeah.
There's hope.
They're hyped.
Everyone's looking at them like, wow, there's a soldier here. Somebody's here to help us. We can, we can move forward. I mean, they were the looks on their faces were those of admiration.
Back in Vault 32, Chet doesn't go through with the marriage, as he outs Stephanie for being part of a plan to hurt people, being 200 years old, and even worse, she's Canadian. So,
and everybody is appalled at she is Canadian.
Yeah, the mob. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I'm so sorry, but it reminded me of, I was cracking up so hard because when she says she's at first she's like, she's not even American. People are like, oh, but then all of a sudden she's like, she's Canadian. You hear somebody in the background, ah! It's the worst thing that they ever done.
Yeah, they went nuts so much that they form a mob and follow her to the overseer's office.
And it just gave me this vibe. It reminds me of from the Chappelle show, the Clayton Bigsby, where he takes off his mask and everybody finds out he's black, and they're like, ah! Like the dude shoots his head off.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that was just that part was the single most hilarious part, I think, in the whole episode. Just that single, she's Canadian. Ah!
Yeah, it was really well played. Because Chet was terrified.
And good for Chet for speaking up, taking this opportunity to tell everyone. And he purposefully wanted witnesses to what was
that's actually smart.
What was going on, right?
But I just thought it was funny that he waited till the very end of the ceremony. He went through the whole ceremony, and then at the very end, when they're about to say the "I do" part, is when he decided to come out with it. So he was, I think he was struggling with it the whole time. Yeah.
Maybe this is not a good idea. But I thought it was hilarious too. He's like, I think she did something to Woody because I found his glasses in the garbage disposal, and then Joe, what's his name? Anyway, the Lee or whatever his name is, the guy who was officiating the wedding. He goes, "Where are his glasses right now?" He's like, "I put them back in the garbage disposal." I'm just like, you idiot.
Which I wanted to ask you guys, who reaches their hands into the garbage disposal? Anybody? Everybody? Oh, he still has a hand.
Oh, are you asking if people put just in general? If people
like you guys? Do you guys?
Oh yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
I tell you, I always look at that damn button that turns it on to make sure it's not on and there's no one around that can possibly turn it on.
Yeah. Or I'll unplug it, if I'm really suspicious. Just completely unplug it from the outlet.
Yeah. Because it can actually, it's not supposed to be able to hurt you, but still a little scary.
Oh no, it'll screw up the tips of your fingers.
Yeah.
Like it'll shred them to the bone.
All right.
Might not it's not like a like a horror film where like their whole finger gets chopped off, like there's like a blender blade in there or anything like that. But no, it'll screw you up.
Well, hopefully we don't find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so back on the Vegas Strip, Maximus and the Ghoul go through the death claws to get inside. But Maximus is knocked out onto the strip and out in the open. The Ghoul takes this opportunity to go inside and turn on the cold fusion machine, activating Robert House.
So there's a really
Fake.
cool fight scene.
Fake
There,
Robert
there-
House.
Yes.
Fake
So-
Robert House. Oh,
Well, the
computerized.
yes, his intelligence that was
likeness.
uploaded to the computer.
So we got to talk about that damn fight though. I mean, because
Yeah.
like I'm waiting for Death Claws to hit. They finally hit, and then now I finally get to see like Power Armor versus Death Claw, right? Which is like one of the coolest things in the games too. Man, kudos to Maximus, because he straight up pushes, hey, what's the plan? And then Cooper the Ghoul was like, like, you stay, like, you keep yourself between me and anything that looks like that, right? And we see this like just Deathclaw cannibalizing another Deathclaw. Like, this is just like, man, this is some crazy shit. And he does it, and he seems like he's handling it pretty well until he gets his arm stuck. And then
Again,
we
last time it was his foot stuck.
his foot, yeah.
Yep.
You got to be careful with that.
At least this time it was metal, not just some plywood on the
right.
floor.
Well, and also it was like his little axe arm thing got stuck in it, like Gears of War.
He's not used to it.
Not Gears of War, but anyway,
it's a new accessory.
And it looks like Cooper's gonna buy back the farm there. Like, he keeps shooting him with that gauze gun, just blowing chunks out of him, and is like, he's not moving at all.
And he's terrified, dude. Like, the ghoul's like,
you can see in his face, like, and that's what I was gonna say too. Is like, when we see him the first time, I was like, that's what's so effective about it. It's like, oh damn, it's the Deathclaw, right? Like, if he's scared of it, it's
and that's the only time he's shown that he's scared of anything. I think has been
that 200 years flash before his eyes.
Yeah, but then right as he's about to get tore apart, Maximus comes up and like chops his head off, but not completely. It's just kind of like hanging on by some skin. And what I really liked is that kind of gratitude, that cowboy gratitude that Cooper gave him, while he just kind of rubbed his finger off the brim of his hat.
Yeah.
And then Maximus, like a badass, goes back and starts to fight the other two. So Maximus gets some kudos for that. I thought that was some honestly badass shit.
Yeah.
So
been waiting to see that since like the very first trailer of season 2, where they were teasing it. So that was really cool. And then it was awesome to see Robert House in that way, because I've definitely seen that visual before. So I know it's a big part of the games, but it's the first time we're actually able to see it, where he's like on the green screen.
Yeah,
there.
I think that's the only way you see him in the games, if I'm not mistaken. He lives as a computer program, sort of, with a conscience. Yeah,
and so, okay, so let me get to this last part so we can open it up here. So, flashing back, Cooper delivers the diode to the president. The scene is cross-cut with Lucy opening the mainframe door to find the congresswoman's head in a jar and hooked up to the mainframe. Okay, so this scene, very well done. The way they did the editing of like the opening the doors, at first you kind of think like, is Lucy and the ghoul looking at each other?
That's what I thought was happening at first. Like, oh, this is the ghoul finds Lucy. They open the doors and they're both there.
Right, but no, this is two different places that they're looking at, and we see the fate of the congresswoman. She is hooked up to the mainframe. She is wearing
She is the mainframe.
She is the mainframe, right? She's wearing the headpiece that Robert House had on his head, and it's hooked up to these machines. And this is what I wanted to ask you guys. Why do you think it was her that was hooked up there? Any ideas?
I had no clue, and I think that's going to end up being a big thing on, how the operation works. Maybe they need somebody who has the best intentions, I don't know. But,
well,
I don't know.
I think that's that's a really good assumption there, Paul, because if you notice earlier on when she was asking how the machine works, he said that this controls amnesia, and then the mainframe plants positive intentions into their their body.
Yes.
So
yes.
you're probably spot on, to be honest with you. There's probably more to it than that, but like that is a very good assumption.
But it was easy to miss, I think, because I didn't catch that till my second watch. And that's exactly right, Alex. Like, first they gave you the answer in this episode of like, here's what this dial does, you know, because we were always wondering that. But it turns out it goes from wiping the memories, but then also implanting a personality. And it is this, you know, very positive, cordial and helpful personality that is this congresswoman, Diane Welch. And, you know, her being hooked up to that just, I don't know, it just makes it even more sinister and really, to me, kind of says, yeah, that's exactly what happened is she was sold out and I don't know how it was done, but, you know, she had the best of intentions and look where it got her.
Yeah, because I don't think I out of all the, when you were asking earlier, out of all the possibilities, I mean, I guess it could be a possibility that she's been playing the long game and playing everybody, but to that point, you know, what we're just talking about, I don't think that she had, you know, I don't think she was a bad person. I think that obviously she needs to be a good person in order for that to work, right? That mechanism.
All right, so let's see what our top moments were for this episode. What comes to mind is something that you guys really loved. You know, it either made you stand up and, you know, pump your fist, or you just appreciated the good writing, or did you have any top moments that come to mind? I'll just say for me, I really do think that for me it was the scene where they were where the ghoul, Thaddeus, and Maximus go and they're just kind of walking and talking, and then they find the weapons. I think they're like solidifying this group of people that are going to actually be working together. And so it was like the first glimpse of that, where the ghoul is actually like okay to work with someone besides Lucy and team up. And so that was exciting. I loved it.
Yeah, as a ragtag kind of A-team type deal, you know, just like he's, and it just, I think that the ghoul kind of got fed up too. I think that he felt really bad for betraying Lucy, and I think it softened his heart a little bit. My personal opinion.
And Thaddeus was in there just being hilarious. You know,
Yeah,
he has a mouth growing on his shoulder, trying to fit in with the ghoul.
That's so disgusting.
Yeah. Tell me some ghoul things. Like what should I expect? And then his arm falls off, you know. And then he's so worried about, he's supposed to be the sniper. He's trying to collect his arm while he's getting the gun, and you know that doesn't look like a real great plan at this point.
And I like how Maximus is like, yeah, man, just, you know, stick back or whatever. He's like, no, I should probably be able to get this taken care of just a few seconds. Like he's like, I'm just like, he's gonna somehow pop his arm back on. And then but yeah, the mouth thing, that got me. Like the fact that like when he's like, yeah, is this normal, shows like the mouth growing on his chest. And then the ghoul's just like, you know, like what the hell is that?
And when am I gonna lose my nose?
Yeah, that's what he's worried about. He's like, you know, it's just hanging on. I want it to come off already.
So what were your guys' top moments?
Sorry, that was obviously I really enjoyed that one, but I you know, I'm gonna save some time. I already spoke about it. I really think that I enjoyed Maximus. Well, I guess an extension of that, I think those three throughout the whole episode are my favorite, but as an extension, that I really, really enjoyed Maximus taking care of business. I thought that was like, just, you know,
fighting the death claws.
Well, he's actually in a suit doing something, you know, instead of being a goofball. Like, well, I guess he kind of was, you know, with the dude from the Commonwealth, but you know, but this seemed like it had purpose. It had gusto. It had bravery, and then it's also a death claw, you know, like, which is like the apex predator of the wasteland. So
yeah,
I feel like I always go to Lucy just because she has her own agenda, and I believe she has her own set of ideals, morals, etc., that she's really, really trying to follow. And so, just seeing her in many different situations doing those things, such as, making nice with her dad and then chaining him up to the stove and, things like that. So I would say overall for the story, again, it's Lucy. I really enjoyed Thaddeus and his commentary and his antics. And then I will say probably every episode, I love when they talk and they're in the suits, the armor suits, and they just sound so dumb, but that always makes me laugh. So those are mine.
All right. Well, so would you say that Lucy's your MVP for the episode as well, Paul? Or is there someone else that really you felt like, crushed it performance-wise or just had a really good character moment?
I think the ghoul overall in this episode really, him and Coop and the going back and forth, he's another one that I seem to kind of admire when he does good things, and he seems to have the best intentions in mind. And so I'm always rooting for him and Lucy, and now Maximus, who it seems like he's more, focused on doing the positive. I always like those groups. I don't like the groups necessarily that are always fighting for power and trying to get the best for themselves, aka Stephanie, maybe.
What about you, Alex?
I'm gonna have to go with Chet. Chet on this one because he finally grew a pair of cojones and took care of business. So I have to give him MVP status.
See, I think for the same, well, I guess different reasons, I'd have to go Steph for this episode. I feel like, a lot of the episode was geared around her and her origin story. But it was just all very believable, all very well acted and well written. And I think it just added a lot of depth to the situation that she's in. And then it just made the next episode a little more interesting because I'm just wondering what is going to happen next with her and what is she going to do, because she has a lot more reasons to just kind of screw with things than we ever realized before this episode. I'm going to go Steph. She's killing it, literally.
I'm just going to start it right now. # justice for Woody.
Or free Woody, because maybe he's not dead.
Either way, he needs justice.
All right. Well, what about any questions going into next episode? What do you guys think? I have a major one, and I don't know if we're going to get an answer even this next episode, but I'm wondering, what does the mainframe head have to do with the experiments in the vault? Like in Vault 33. Because I wonder if there's any relation there. I wonder who's going to replace this, Congresswoman's head. And is it someone that Hank was kind of grooming to take that spot by raising his kids raising them the way he did, or just having people in that vault be the way they are? I wonder if he's like a part of that at all, or I wonder if that even makes any sense. But just a little theory.
What you're saying is, like, since everybody's OPKB, that like they're the kind of moral compass that you would need to run that. And then, unfortunately, I don't know if this is what he's trying to go for, but obviously the most likely candidate would be Lucy herself for that mind control.
Thought has crossed my mind. You guys have any questions going into the next episode?
For me, it's like, what's in the box? Like that's one. And then also, I just want to see, not like a question as much as it is kind of an eagerness to see Lucy and Cooper reunite, and just kind of how that's going to work out.
I have
and then
okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and also what's going to happen with we saw Stephanie lock herself in the office, so I want to see how that's going to pan out and what she's going to end up doing.
I'm still very interested in the factions, how that's all going to play out. I mean, it seems to me so odd that they've introduced all these factions, but yet we haven't gotten into any detail of their conflicts, their inner workings, those type of things, what each goal is, stuff like that. And I don't know that we're going to answer that this season. Maybe that's what they're going to work on for next season, but
I think
there's definitely a question mark over, like, let's put all this together and see how it's all going to inner work.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to kind of shed some light on that, I personally believe that they're just lore building right now. They're introducing these people so they don't have to do so much groundwork on the next season. And then more than likely what's going to happen is this finale is going to open the doorway to a conflict. And then that's going to be the main focus of the next season.
We will see.
That's what I've been guessing this whole time.
Yeah, well, we're going to see what happens in this next episode. This was the penultimate. Our producer is saying another bomb's going to drop. Maybe so.
Travis.
But they might just drop on us, as we're maybe expecting one thing, but they give us another. But we'll find out in the season finale next week. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode. And if you want to support the channel, you want to support the show, a couple ways you can do that. You can subscribe. You can click on that notification bell. You can like these videos, or maybe even share it with someone that is getting into Fallout or played the video game, or just watches the show and wants to hear some people talk about it. You can also leave us a 5-star review. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Feel free to go over there, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it so much. It helps the channel. It helps us grow, and we'd be stoked on it. So go over there and give us a 5-star review if you can. And so that's a wrap on this week's episode of Cinema.